We are all too familiar with the whimsical fairy tales brought to us by beloved books and even the likes of Walt Disney himself. We know that Cinderella found her true love thanks to a fairy godmother and magical slippers. The Little Mermaid gave up her tail to walk amongst humans arm in arm with the man she loves. And Peter Pan, well, he never grew up. But what the fairy tales didn't tell us was of their very dark and depressing origins, and what really happened to the characters we know and love. Before we begin, be sure to stick around until the end of the video where I'll be responding to a few of your comments. Okay, let's jump into our list of the top 5 scary fairy tale dark origins. In at 5, Snow White. In 1937, Disney released the magical tale of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. As we know, it followed a lonely princess living with her evil stepmother who becomes jealous of Snow White's beauty. She orders a huntsman to track her down and murder her, but fails to do so. Snow hides out in the forest with 7 friendly dwarfs before the queen finds Snow herself, disguising herself as a hag. She gives her a poisonous apple and Snow falls into a death-like sleep until her Prince Charming wakes her with a kiss. Now, the original tale is far more sinister than the Disney version most of us grew up on. In early versions of the tale, the queen is instead Snow's biological mother, which makes the story far more sinister. Although the attempted murder is still included, the lengths in which the stepmother had wished to go were not, thankfully. A quote from the Brothers Grimm story goes as follows: "Take Snow White out into the woods to a remote spot and stab her to death. As proof that she is dead, bring her lungs and her liver back to me. I shall cook them with salt and eat them." Gross. No thank you, Queenie. Worse yet, at the end of the story, yes, Snow White gets a happy ending. However, when the queen attends her wedding, Snow White tortures her to death by putting iron shoes into a fire before forcing the queen to wear them and then dance until she dies. Yikes. In at 4, Rapunzel. As younger viewers will know, Rapunzel was the main character in the 2010 film and Disney's 50th animated film, Tangled. Rapunzel had been locked away in a tower since a baby by an old evil hag, her magical long hair providing the younger with eternal youth as the evil Gothel uses it to keep herself young. It's a sad story regardless, but the original fairy tale is far more sinister still. It draws upon an early Christian story set in the 3rd century AD in Asia. Father adored his daughter's beauty and forbid her from having any suitors, thus locking her away in a tower, during which time she converted to Christianity, praying so loudly her tower reverberated through the town. Her father was informed of his daughter's actions, dragging her before the Roman consul, who ordered the father to behead her or forfeit his fortune. So, the father beheaded her, preferring money over family and love. However, shortly after, the father was killed by a lightning strike, and his daughter became Saint Barbara, revered by the Eastern Orthodox Church. In at 3, Sleeping Beauty. Released by Disney in 1959, Sleeping Beauty follows Princess Aurora, who becomes cursed by a jealous evil witch, Maleficent, cursing her to die on her 16th birthday. However, thanks to her guardian fairies, Aurora falls into a deep sleep that can only be ended by true love's kiss. Classic. Now in the tale Sun, Moon, Talia, the story is far darker for our dear princess. Upon birth, Princess Talia is cursed with the threat of a splinter, and once grown, pricks her finger and falls into an eternal slumber. During this time, a king happens upon the princess's castle and Talia's lifeless body. The king rapes her, impregnating her. While she sleeps, Talia gives birth to twins, Sun and Moon, and while searching for milk, one of the babies sucks out the splinter from Talia's finger, thus waking her up. Now, the king returns, which brings about an entirely new beast, his wife. Once she learns of her husband's infidelities, she orders for the twins to be cooked and fed to him. In the midst of all the chaos, a cook hides the twins, so the queen instead attempts to throw Talia into the fire, but the king intercepts her, burning his wife alive instead. Talia and her rapist then marry, living happily ever after. Well, you can see why Disney wanted to leave that little detail out of their animated classic. In at 2, The Little Mermaid. My favourite Disney film, The Little Mermaid, released in 1989, follows 16-year-old Ariel, a mermaid fascinated with life on land. On one visit to the surface, she encounters Eric, whom she falls madly in love with. So she makes a deal with the sea witch, Ursula, in order to become human for 3 days. But things quickly go awry. I mean, they always do. Now, the original tale was created by writer Hans Christian Andersen in 1837, and it endured a far grislier journey. In Hans's story, mermaids were soulless creatures, destined to become sea foam when they died, whereas humans would embark on a glorious afterlife. The Little Mermaid didn't want to meet a grisly end and instead wanting a human soul. Her grandmother told her that in order to grow a soul, a mermaid must wed a man who loves her more than anything in the world, and if that man should not want to marry her, she would die. Just as the film goes, the Little Mermaid sees a handsome young man on the shore and visits a sea witch to strike a deal. She will give her legs, but at a cost. I quote, "You must swim to land tomorrow before sunrise and sit down on the shore and drink it. Your tail will then disappear and shrink up into what mankind calls legs, and you will feel great pain as if a sword were passing through you. At every step you take, it will feel as if you were treading upon sharp knives, and that the blood must flow." Now, if this torture wasn't bad enough for the mermaid, the witch cuts off her tongue as payment. Now, the prince does fall in love with the mermaid, but sadly he loves another more. The only way to save herself is to stab the prince to death, but she refuses, ending her life instead. And finally in at number 1, Peter Pan. We all know the tale of Peter Pan, a little boy in Neverland who just refuses to grow up. He embarks on wonderful adventures with his lost boys, battling his foe James Hook, and flying amongst the clouds and down to the oceans with the mermaids. It's a magical story that we can all relate to, however, as you can expect from this list, the original tale is just plain up. Peter Pan was written by J.M. Barrie in 1904, originally as a play, before being adapted into a book. As we know, Peter doesn't want to grow up, but the lengths in which he'll go to avoid that is just alarming. I quote, "The boys on the island vary, of course, in numbers, according as they get killed and so on, and when they seem to be growing up, which is against the rules, Peter thins them out. But as this time there were 6 of them, counting the twins as 2. Yep, you heard it right. As the lost boys age, he kills them off, because God forbid anyone grows up in Neverland." Well, there we have it. What did you guys think? What fairy tale origin scared you the most? Leave us all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below, but before I go, I just want to respond to a few comments from one of our last videos. Top 5 scary and haunted museums you need to pray before entering. Zen Gaijin said, "So, nobody gonna talk about her Velma sweater?" Well, apparently you all did, considering this got 14 likes. And yep, I wore it again today. I didn't realise this made me look like Velma from Scooby-Doo, but I'm definitely embracing the comparison. Jennifer K. Luckett said, "Lucy, which one of these museums would you visit? Myself, I would visit Torquay Museum, it seems like the most haunted." Well, I'd be right there with you, Jennifer. Next time I'm home in Devon, I'll definitely be checking it out, so keep your eyes peeled for pics on my social media. In response to my invitation to spend a day in my oversized hoodie, the real Thanos said, "Lucy McPhee, choose me and you shall wield the power of my gauntlet." Done and done. Give me the power, I would snap my fingers until there is nothing left but dust. And on that note, I think it's time we bring this list to a close. If you haven't already, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another scary vid. And for those who entered for a chance to win the complete fiction collection of H.P. Lovecraft, I will be announcing the winner next week, so stay tuned for another top 5 scary vid. And until next time, see you later.